Eli had always been curious. Not the reckless kind of curiosity that gets you into trouble. At least that's what he told himself. But the kind that made him look twice at things no one else noticed. That day, on the distant planet of Zeta 9, his curiosity became both a gift and a curse. He was part of a small reconnaissance team. Humans sent to explore an abandoned alien facility that had long been considered dangerous. Their mission was simple: scan the area, collect data, and report back. Nothing more, nothing less. The corridors of the facility were strange and unnerving. The walls were smooth but not uniform, almost organic with soft veins of light running through them. It felt alive. Sometimes the floor beneath him seemed to hum faintly, as though the building itself were aware of every step he took. Eli's teammates had warned him to stay close, to move carefully, but he couldn't help himself. One slightly ajar door caught his eye. The others had passed it without a second glance, but something about it whispered to him, "Go. See what's inside." He hesitated. For a moment he considered ignoring it. After all, rules existed for a reason. But curiosity, that irresistible pull, was stronger. Slowly, cautiously, Eli pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was warmer here, thick in a way that made him feel both nervous and alive. Strange colors danced across the walls, casting shifting patterns of light that seemed to move in rhythm with his heartbeat. He felt like an intruder stepping into someone's private world, and maybe he thought he was. At first there was nothing to see but the gentle glow of the chamber. Eli's eyes adjusted, scanning the room. It was massive, larger than anything he had ever imagined from alien architecture. Bioluminescent growth spiraled up the walls, some like delicate coral, others like thick vines pulsating with light. The air carried a faint, sweet scent, almost floral, yet completely alien. Every instinct in him screamed that he should turn back, run, and never look again. But something deeper held him in place. Something told him that what he was about to see would change him. Then he saw her, the alien queen. She wasn't just large. She was monumental, a presence so commanding it made Eli's knees tremble. Her limbs were long and elegant yet powerful, her body shimmering with colors that shifted like liquid metal under the light. But it wasn't her size that startled him most. It was her eyes. They were enormous, luminous, and intelligent in a way humans weren't prepared for. They weren't angry, nor were they predatory. They were watching, studying, curious. Eli froze. His heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to scream, to do something, but he couldn't. He felt as if he were being measured, not for harm, but for understanding. He had never seen anything so alive, so aware, so real. In that moment, fear and awe collided in a way that left him trembling. The queen tilted her head slightly, and the air seemed to hum with her awareness. It wasn't a threat, not yet, but Eli understood instinctively that one wrong move could end everything. And yet, even in the midst of fear, there was something else, a strange, impossible pull of connection. He felt that somehow this creature, this alien queen, was not an enemy. She was a being like any other, and for reasons he could not explain, she had noticed him. And then came the resonance. Not words, not language as humans understood it, but a vibration deep in his mind. "Why are you here?" The question was heavy, not with anger, but with curiosity and expectation. Eli swallowed hard. He wanted to reply, but no words came out. He realized that he had stumbled into something far bigger than himself. He had accidentally crossed the threshold into a world humans were never meant to understand. Eli's pulse raced. He had made a mistake, a colossal mistake. But at that same time, something extraordinary was unfolding. In that chamber, standing before a being that was as terrifying as she was magnificent, Eli felt a strange, awe-filled certainty. This encounter would change him forever, and it had only just begun. Eli's legs felt like they were made of lead. He had never faced anything like this before. Nothing in his training, nothing in human history, could have prepared him for the presence of the alien queen. She moved with a grace that was terrifying and mesmerizing all at once. Every shift of her enormous frame sent ripples across the glowing chamber, yet she made no sound. It was as if the air itself respected her, bending around her like water around a stone. He swallowed hard, trying to calm the wild pounding of his heart. His hands were clammy and his mind raced. What do I do? How do I survive this? The questions crashed against him like waves, but the strangest part was that he did not feel pure fear. Yes, there was terror, the natural instinct to flee, but beneath it was awe, pure and overwhelming. He was standing in front of a being that could crush him with a thought, yet her gaze held something else entirely: curiosity. The Queen's eyes were enormous, luminescent, and almost hypnotic. They were not the eyes of a predator hunting its prey. They were the eyes of a mother, a guardian, a ruler, one who had lived too long, seen too much, and carried the weight of her entire species on her shoulders. Eli felt like those eyes were looking past him, through him, seeing every fear, every hope, every truth he had tried to hide from the world. He wanted to step back, to escape, but something deep inside him rooted him to the spot. He had been noticed, and that was dangerous. A low melodic hum filled the chamber, vibrating through Eli's chest. It was not sound as he knew it. It was a thought, a feeling, a message transmitted directly into his mind. "Why are you here?" the Queen asked again, her presence pressing into his consciousness like gentle gravity. Her question was not angry, not hostile. It was patient, waiting, expectant. Eli could feel the weight of her attention, but it was not judgmental. It was sincere. He swallowed again, finally finding his voice. I didn't mean to come here," he stammered. "My team, we were exploring. I didn't know this chamber existed. I wasn't supposed to—" His words faltered, and he trailed off, realizing that language seemed inadequate here. The Queen didn't speak in words. She communicated through resonance, through emotion, through pure awareness. And yet somehow she understood. Images and feelings began to flow into Eli's mind. He saw flashes of her life, her struggles, the history of her species. They had been warriors once, but not against themselves. They had fought to protect, to survive, to shield their young from enemies far larger and crueler than anything humans had faced. He saw battles that had lasted centuries, victories that had come at terrible cost, and the loneliness that followed. The Queen had ruled over a world that had grown fearful of her kind. She was both revered and hunted, admired and hated, loved and feared, and yet in all of it she had endured. Eli's fear slowly began to shift. He began to see her not as a monster, but as a leader, a mother, a being of incredible intelligence and strength. The sheer scale of her existence was staggering, but so was her vulnerability. She carried the weight of her people alone, and now she was standing before him, examining him with the same careful curiosity he had felt when looking at her. A tear prickled the corner of Eli's eye. He didn't understand why. He wasn't crying because he was afraid. He was crying because he suddenly understood something profound. The universe was bigger, stranger, and more emotional than he had ever imagined. Life did not have to look like humans. It did not have to act like humans. And yet emotions, care, fear, love, hope, were universal. The Queen's gaze softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. She lowered her massive head closer to him, and for a moment Eli felt as if they were no longer two beings separated by species, by size, by history, but two conscious minds meeting for the first time. The chamber no longer seemed threatening. The glow of the walls, the pulsing veins of light, the vibrations in the air, all of it became part of a shared understanding. Eli realized something incredible. He was not just witnessing the Queen. He was connecting with her. In a universe so vast, with stars that burned for billions of years and species he could not begin to count, he had found a moment of recognition, of empathy, of mutual awareness. He was not alone, and neither was she. He took a careful step forward, unsure if he dared to break the unspoken boundary between them. But the Queen did not move away. Instead, she seemed to welcome it, as if inviting him to see her not as a monster to fear, but as a being to understand. In that instant, Eli realized that he had stumbled into something rare and beautiful, a bridge between species, between hearts, between worlds, and for the first time, he felt that fear and awe could exist together, not as enemies, but as companions. Eli's heart still pounded, but the fear that had frozen him earlier began to shift into something else: curiosity, wonder, and a strange sense of connection. He had expected to find a monster, something dangerous and alien beyond comprehension. But what he saw in the Queen's eyes made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. There was intelligence, yes, strength beyond imagination, but also sorrow, and longing, and hope. The hum in the chamber deepened, vibrating through the air and into his chest. It was as though the Queen was reaching out, not with claws or weapons, but with her mind, her emotions, her very being. And slowly, images began to form in Eli's thoughts. They were vivid and overwhelming, memories not his own, yet he felt them as if they were. He saw battles fought across countless worlds, wars that had lasted for generations. Her species had been warriors once, but they did not fight for conquest. They fought to survive, to protect, to shield the innocent from merciless enemies that sought to destroy them. He saw the cost of that survival. Entire colonies had been lost, cities burned, families torn apart. The Queen's people had endured loss beyond comprehension, yet they persevered. She had survived when others had not, carrying the weight of her species on shoulders that were both magnificent and impossibly lonely. Eli's chest tightened. He had never imagined that an alien being could feel such grief, such burden, or such tireless devotion. Then, another wave of images, small chambers glowing with soft light, intricate networks of life tending to one another, young hatchlings learning to move, to think, to exist. And through it all, the Queen moved among them, not with force, but with care. She nurtured her people like a gardener tending a delicate, extraordinary garden. She was a leader, yes, but also a mother, a guardian, a protector. And suddenly Eli understood that she had never wanted war. She had only wanted life and safety, and the chance for her kind to exist without fear. He swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of all these emotions pressing into him. But instead of fear, he felt something powerful: empathy. In that moment, he understood that the universe was far larger and stranger than humans could imagine. But the need to care, to protect, to connect, was universal. Even across species, even across worlds, these feelings were the same. Eli realized he had been staring too long, lost in awe. He took a cautious step forward, unsure if he dared to reach out with words or gestures, but the Queen's resonance welcomed him. It was not hostile. It was an invitation. For the first time, he sensed that he was not simply observing history or life. He was part of it, even if only briefly. He was standing in a place no human had ever stood, seeing something no human had ever seen, and it was changing him. A question formed in his mind, one he did not speak aloud. Why are you still here? After everything? After the wars, the losses, the fear? The answer came not in words, but in an overwhelming flood of feeling. She was still here because hope had not left her. She had survived because she believed somewhere deep inside that one day, understanding might reach her world, that someone not from her species might see her not as a threat, not as a monster, but as a being capable of love, of care, of life. Tears stung Eli's eyes. He had never felt so small, yet so connected in his life. The scale of the Queen's existence was staggering, yet her vulnerability was almost human. In that moment, he realized something profoundly simple and beautiful. Understanding was more powerful than fear, empathy stronger than instinct, connection more enduring than hatred. He raised his hand slightly as if to show he meant no harm. The Queen lowered her head slightly, a gesture that Eli interpreted as recognition. She had shared with him not only her past, but her trust, and in return he offered his understanding, his awe, his humanity. For the first time, two species separated by worlds, by biology, by history, truly saw each other, not as enemies, but as beings capable of emotion, intelligence, and care. And Eli knew deep in his heart that this encounter would change him forever. He had glimpsed the extraordinary life of a being he had been taught to fear, and he had discovered something extraordinary about himself. He realized that humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons, its technology, or its numbers, but its ability to feel, to connect, and to understand even across the vast gulf of the stars. And somewhere, in the depth of the glowing chamber, the alien Queen felt the same thing. Eli's fear had not completely vanished, but it had transformed into something far more complex. It was awe, yes, and respect, but also a strange sense of intimacy, as if he were seeing the world through the Queen's eyes. She had shared her memories with him, her pain, her victories, her losses. And now he felt as though a fragile bridge had formed between them, a bridge of understanding and recognition. The chamber seemed to shift subtly around him, almost responding to his presence. The glowing veins in the walls pulsed with a gentle rhythm, and the bioluminescent plants swayed as though moved by some silent wind. Eli took a careful step forward, and the Queen did not react with aggression. Instead, she leaned slightly closer, her massive form dwarfing him, yet conveying something gentle, almost tender. He could sense her awareness like a living pulse, and it filled the room in a way that made him both small and significant at the same time. He wanted to speak, to ask 1,000 questions, but words felt clumsy. So he did the only thing he could. He opened himself silently, without pretense. His thoughts, his emotions, his fear, and his wonder, all of it. And somehow the Queen understood. He could feel it in the vibrations that hummed through the air, in the faint flicker of light along her limbs, in the way her eyes softened when they met his. For a long moment, the world fell away. Eli was no longer a human in a strange alien facility. He was a visitor in the life of a creature that had endured centuries, that had carried the weight of a civilization alone, and yet still had hope. He realized that this hope was not naive. It was not fragile. It was strong and enduring, like the light pulsing through the chamber, resilient even in the darkest corners of the universe. He moved slowly, cautiously, closer to her massive form, and then, in the most human of gestures, he extended his hand, not in threat, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. The Queen did not reach out, but he could feel her attention as if it rested on him like sunlight. It was a connection deeper than words, a meeting of consciousnesses, a moment where two species recognized each other as more than instinct and survival. Images flowed again, but this time they were different. He saw the Queen tending to her young, guiding them, teaching them, protecting them. He saw the intricate network of life she had nurtured, a world where every being depended on the other, and yet each was valued as an individual. It was a society built not on fear or domination, but on care and understanding, and Eli felt a profound emotion well up inside him. Respect, admiration, and something more fragile and powerful. Hope. Hope that humanity could be the same. Hope that humans, who had so often let fear dictate their actions, could learn from what he was seeing. That empathy, understanding, and compassion were not weaknesses, but the greatest strengths a species could have. Eli felt tears prickling his eyes, but he did not wipe them away. He wanted the Queen to see him as he truly was, open and unguarded. Without lies or pretenses, the Queen tilted her head, a subtle motion that Eli interpreted as acknowledgement. And he realized something extraordinary. She had accepted him, not as a threat, not as a spy, not as an intruder, but as a being capable of understanding. For the first time, Eli felt that two creatures from entirely different worlds could truly communicate without violence, without fear, without hatred, just understanding. Hours seemed to pass, though time had no meaning here. Eli had lost count of breaths, steps, and moments, and yet he knew that this encounter, fleeting as it might be, was more important than anything he had ever experienced. He had seen a life beyond human understanding, and he had felt the profound truth that connected all living beings. The desire to be seen, to be understood, and to be cared for. And in that vast chamber, glowing softly with colors that defied human language, Eli realized something he would carry for the rest of his life. Sometimes, the greatest adventures are not about fighting or surviving. They are about seeing, truly seeing and allowing oneself to feel. He had come expecting danger. He had found connection. And he knew deep down that this was only the beginning. Eli's moment of awe and connection was suddenly shattered. A sharp light flickered at the edge of the chamber, followed by a loud metallic clank. His team. They were close, searching for him, unaware of what he had discovered. He froze, his pulse spiking. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, but he knew it was too late. The Queen had felt their presence, their energy, just as she had felt his. The massive alien eyes turned toward the doorway. Eli could see the tension ripple through her enormous frame. She bristled, her body coiling like a spring, ready to strike if necessary. The room vibrated with her awareness, and Eli realized the danger. His team had no idea what or who was in this chamber. They saw only size, only power, only a target. And if the Queen perceived them as a threat, the consequences could be catastrophic. "Wait," Eli shouted, his voice trembling as he stepped forward. "Don't, please. Don't shoot!" He ran a few steps toward the door, hands raised, heart hammering. He wanted to explain, to make them understand, but he had no words that could cross the impossible gap between human fear and alien understanding. His teammates were trained soldiers, disciplined and cautious, but they were human, and fear had already taken root. The Queen's pulse quickened, a low, resonant vibration that filled the chamber and pressed against Eli's chest. Her massive head lowered slightly, and he could feel the tension in the air like a physical force. He knew she was ready to defend herself and her people if necessary. Eli's stomach tightened. One wrong move, one startled reaction, and everything he had just learned, the bridge, the connection, the fragile understanding could collapse in an instant. He stepped closer to the Queen, trying to calm her, trying to reassure her, though he doubted she needed reassurance from him. He could feel her awareness studying him, judging whether he would protect her or betray her. "I'm human," Eli said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not your enemy. I see you. I understand." For a moment nothing moved. Then the Queen lowered her massive head, not in submission but in acknowledgement. Eli felt the tension in the room ease slightly, but he knew it was fragile. He had to act quickly before fear dictated his team's actions. He turned to face the doorway, waving his arms and shouting, "Stop, she's not a monster. She's alive, she feels. She's not our enemy." His words were urgent, desperate. He could see one of his teammates raise a weapon, fingers trembling on the trigger. Time slowed and Eli's mind raced. He couldn't let them make the wrong choice, not now. Not after everything he had seen. The Queen's eyes shifted toward the doorway again, scanning the intruders. Her massive frame seemed even more imposing than before, but Eli noticed something incredible. She had not attacked. She had chosen restraint, patience, and understanding over instinct, and in that Eli saw a lesson humanity could learn. Strength was not just in power, it was in control, in empathy, and choosing not to destroy when one could. He spoke again, more clearly this time. "Look at her! She's protecting something just like we would. She's a mother, a leader. If you attack, you destroy everything. Everything she's fought to protect." The room remained tense, the air crackling with energy and fear. Eli felt sweat running down his face, his chest aching from the strain, and then slowly one of his teammates lowered their weapon. Then another. Hesitation replaced instinct, and in that moment Eli realized something profound. Even fear could be overcome. Humanity, despite its flaws, had the capacity to see beyond instinct, beyond prejudice, beyond fear itself. The Queen's pulse softened, her massive form relaxing slightly. Eli exhaled, relief flooding through him. The danger was not over. The team still had much to understand, but the bridge had not broken. A fragile connection remained, delicate and unsteady, but alive. And Eli knew deep in his heart that this moment, the tension, the fear, the understanding, would shape him forever. He had glimpsed what humanity could become when it chose empathy over fear, understanding over violence, and for the first time he realized that the universe was not a place ruled solely by strength. It was a place where compassion could survive, even against the most impossible odds. Eli looked at the Queen once more. Her eyes, immense and luminous, met his. In that silent exchange he felt something powerful. Trust. A trust that had been earned, a trust that could change everything. And he knew that whatever came next, he would not betray it. The tension in the chamber slowly began to ease, but Eli's heart was still racing. He could feel the Queen's presence all around him, massive yet gentle, like a living ocean that could either engulf or protect. For the first time, he realized how fragile understanding was, how easily it could be shattered by fear or ignorance. Yet here it remained, delicate and precious, bridging two species that had never truly known each other. He took a slow step closer to the Queen, letting his hands remain open, a gesture of trust. Her enormous eyes followed every movement, studying him with patience and intelligence. Eli felt a warmth spread through his chest, a mixture of relief, awe, and something deeper. Hope. Despite the danger, despite the size, despite the difference between them, he realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. A bond was forming, one that was built not on fear, not on survival, but on recognition and empathy. Eli spoke softly, unsure if words could even convey what he felt. "I see you," he said. "Not as a monster, not as a threat. I see you. Everything you've done, all you've survived. I see it." The Queen's pulse shifted, a low hum vibrating through the chamber. It was not anger. It was acknowledgement, understanding. For the first time, Eli felt that he was not just standing before a powerful alien being. He was communicating with a mind that could feel, choose, and recognize his intent. And in that recognition, he sensed an unspoken lesson. Strength was not in domination, but in empathy. He thought of humanity, of all the times humans had acted out of fear, destroyed what they did not understand. And yet he realized that humans could also rise above it. Fear could be overcome. Violence could be set aside. Compassion, patience, and understanding could exist even in the face of the impossible. He felt proud, not for himself, not yet, but for the potential of his species. Humans could learn from this moment, could choose differently, could choose to see life as precious even when it was strange, even when it was alien. The Queen's massive head lowered slightly, her luminous eyes meeting his. Eli felt the weight of her awareness, immense and powerful, but it was tempered by care. She was not indifferent. She had chosen not to destroy him, not to attack, and he realized that this choice mirrored what he hoped humanity could become. Decisions mattered, not instinct alone. Empathy mattered, not fear alone. And in that understanding, a quiet courage grew inside him. He raised his hand slowly, trembling, and reached toward the Queen. Not to touch, not to grab, but as a symbol. A symbol that he could meet intelligence with respect, that he could honor life in all its forms. The Queen did not move closer, but Eli could feel the connection deepen. She had accepted him as a being capable of choice, capable of understanding, capable of compassion, and for the first time, he believed that humanity could reach beyond its small fears to do the same. The moment stretched, neither human nor alien moving, both existing in the fragile space between worlds. Eli's mind raced with thoughts of what this meant, not just for him, but for everyone back on Earth. If humans could learn to approach the unknown with understanding instead of fear, they could survive and thrive where others might fail. He saw a glimpse of the future, a future in which humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or numbers, but its ability to empathize, to connect, to rise above the instinct to destroy. A tear slid down his cheek unbidden. He did not wipe it away. He wanted the Queen to see him as he truly was, open, vulnerable, human. She lowered her massive head just slightly, a gesture that felt like acknowledgement, approval, even understanding. In that quiet, glowing chamber surrounded by the rhythm of her life, Eli understood something simple and profound. Humanity's light did not have to be dimmed by fear. It could shine brightly even across the vastness of space, even in the presence of a being more powerful than anything humans had imagined. And for the first time, he felt certain of one thing. The universe was not ruled by strength alone. It was shaped by empathy, by choice, by the courage to see, truly see another being, not as an enemy, but as life itself. Eli smiled faintly, a small human gesture in a vast alien world. And he knew, deep in his heart, that this moment, the trust, the connection, the fragile understanding would guide him for the rest of his life. Humanity could rise, humanity could shine, and sometimes the smallest, quietest courage could change everything. Eli took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him like a warm blanket. The chamber was quiet now, the tension that had gripped it for so long replaced with a fragile calm. The Queen, enormous and luminous, watched him with eyes that held 1,000 emotions: curiosity, intelligence, weariness, and, most surprisingly, something like trust. He could feel the connection between them, delicate yet undeniable, stretching across the vast divide between species. He knew it was time to leave. His team waited outside, unaware of the extraordinary encounter that had just unfolded. They expected reports of danger, monsters, weapons, and destruction. But Eli had learned something far greater. He had learned that fear could be replaced with understanding, that strength could be tempered with compassion, and that even across the cold emptiness of space, life could reach out to life. "Goodbye," he whispered softly, more to himself than to the Queen. His voice carried no command, no threat, only respect. The Queen's pulse shifted, a gentle vibration that seemed like acknowledgement, maybe even farewell. For a moment, Eli wondered if he would ever see her again, but it did not matter. The memory, the lesson, and the connection were enough to last a lifetime. When he returned to his team, their faces were filled with worry, relief, and questions. They looked at him expectantly, but Eli did not speak of monsters or danger. Instead, he spoke of life, of understanding, of something humans had long forgotten in their rush to conquer and control. "There's someone in that chamber," he said, his voice steady now, filled with a quiet confidence. "She's alive. She feels. She's not a monster. She's a mother, a leader. She's remarkable, and she deserves to be understood, not feared." The soldiers exchanged glances, unsure whether to believe him. Fear had been their first reaction, as it always was. But in Eli's eyes, they saw something different. Awe, respect, and a truth they could not ignore. Something had changed in him. Something beyond fear, something beyond human instinct. And slowly they began to see it too. Eli knew that humanity had a choice. They could continue to act on fear, destroying what they did not understand, repeating mistakes made countless times before, or they could rise above it. They could choose empathy over violence, understanding over instinct, compassion over ignorance. And in that choice lay the true strength of humanity. As they left the A,